foreign, predatory, parasitic corporations are replacing our natural environment with an industrial landscape of wind turbines. One Nation will stand against sending children down a path of drug dependency and body mutilation to appease the gender cult. Leave our kids alone. The Trusted Digital Identity Bill is a global surveillance and control mechanism that profit-hungry corporations and power-mad politicians drafted and crafted. One Nation opposes this inhuman, dystopian future that the United Nations promotes as the Great Reset, and we condemn this Parliament for signing on to it. I call for Australia to reject the World Economic Forum's Great Reset and instead mount a great resist. Just like the koalas being euthanized to make way for wind turbines, or damaged solar panels leaking toxic heavy metals into waterways, the United Nations net zero plan again involves killing the environment to save it. I've been speaking about the fear, the oppression and the inhuman cruelty of our COVID response since July 2020. I promised to hound down those responsible, and I will continue relentlessly to keep that promise. You're about to be live with me, Senator Malcolm Roberts. Hi, good afternoon. It's Friday afternoon and it's the last Friday before we go down to Canberra on the weekend. So I'm actually flying down to Canberra tomorrow, Saturday. So let's do the weekly wrap. Albanese has brought 3 flags to China. Did you see that? I think there might be a photo. Yeah, here we go. Look at that. Here's the Prime Minister of Australia standing in front of the Aboriginal flag, flanked by the Australian flag and the Torres Strait Island flag. This is ridiculous. Taking 3 flags to represent a single country, it's embarrassing. It's bloody embarrassing. It's been called identity politics on steroids. It makes our nation look absolutely incoherent. Not only that, it makes us look weak with a possible future foe. We're visiting a possible future war enemy and we're putting on a posture of weakness. It's more like a tourist trap. There are selfies, I think, that we're going to show you with pandas and on the Great Wall of China. Oh, isn't that cute? Walking on the Great Wall. Here we go. Happen to be a celebrant here. Giving the Rabbitohs great publicity, I guess. Is that a Prime Minister's job? Not a single tough question of Xi Jinping, an autocrat. Not a single tough question. And what did I say last week, before he went to China? I said, will he raise the Port of Darwin? An election promise. And it's currently operated by a Chinese company that's associated or affiliated with the Communist Party of China on a 99-year lease. Was it raised?
China might take to that.
No, it wasn't raised.
How predictable is this man? Why didn't he bring up the Port of Darwin? It was an election promise. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a tally today. We've got a few topics from my staff. They've done some research and put up a few topics. I've got other topics that I've just thrown in, and I'm going to avoid doing what I normally do every Friday, and that's go too long. So we'll get as far as we get, and that's it. And good afternoon, Nell. Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to, at the end of every topic, ask a simple question. Is this another Liberal, Labor, Uni-Party issue? So the first one, China, being soft on China and selling the Port of Darwin on a 99-year lease. That was done by the Liberals. It's perpetuated by Labor. So yes, this is another Uni-Party issue. Okay, next topic. UK activists, British activists, are trying to make climate denialism illegal. Climate denialism? What's climate denialism? Are we denying climate? So Labor donors are calling for a climate denial to be criminalised. I mean, they're serious. Dale Vince, a Green tycoon, donated £5 million to Labor. So he wants his pound of flesh. He wrote on X, "Good move, Ed. It's time to tell it like it is. I'd make climate denial a criminal offence, given the incredible harm it will cause even by slowing down progress to net zero." What a lunatic. Completely against the science. And a UN, add this to my notes, and a UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights and Climate Change, a rapporteur for human rights and climate change, called for media and advertising firms to be held criminally liable for misinformation and disinformation put out by fossil fuel companies. So anyone else can put out misinformation and disinformation, but not fossil fuel companies. By the way, I looked up what's a rapporteur. A rapporteur is a person chosen to investigate and report on a particular subject or to prepare reports for a governing body. This is Wikipedia. They are often appointed by organisations like the United Nations or the European Parliament. Get well away from them. The term originates from the French word rapporteur, meaning to bring back or report. So I ask the question, why climate denialism? And what is climate denialism? Is it denying climate? I've never denied that climate exists. I've never denied the science on climate change, climate variability. The science shows quite clearly, and I might go through the meaning of science later. Yes, Darryl, I agree with you. It's an absolute scam. It's a fraud designed to control what we do and how we do it, our whole lifestyle. And I'll show you some more one day on this. But it's not only designed to control, it's designed to transfer wealth from we the people to the billionaires, the crony capitalist corporations. And the United Nations, give it an annual income, $500 billion, $500 billion. So they're not they're not specifying and defining climate denialism. It's just another bloody label to cause separation and to cause people to switch off. So just go up and attack anyone who they label a climate denialist. Thanks, Ian. Good to have you. So is this a Liberal-Labor uniparty tally? Yes, it is. It's another uniparty issue. Climate scam is another uniparty issue. Every major climate and energy policy was introduced by which party? Which party? That's right, the Liberal National Party. Every major one. It started with John Howard. He introduced the whole basis as a foundation now for destroying our energy sector. John Howard, 1997 to 1996 to 2007. Now let's go to another issue on climate, supposedly on climate. Spanish wind farms. Blue Float Energy gave up on its offshore industrial wind complex in Victoria. Well, that's welcome news. It's a very encouraging news. It shows what we've been saying for a while. It's not economical. I think we might have some pictures to show you on this as well. The lesson, what's the lesson? It couldn't make the economics work. That's why it's collapsing. That's why it's withdrawn, given up, because the economics don't work. That's what we've been saying from the start. That's what Spain has been showing us. And all the European countries, not that there's many, that have converted to high proportions of solar and wind. Even with all that generous green policy and public money on offer, regulations to prop up wind and solar, subsidies to prop up wind and solar, they can't make the bloody thing work. And it was meant to cost $10 billion. Thanks, Leon. Wind farms cannot pay for themselves. Simple return on investment, exactly. Unless you get subsidies. You know, Warren Buffett is an amazing investor. I'd say that easily the world's most successful investor. He said wind turbines are not a credible investment. Stay out of them. Subsidise wind turbines. Now there's a lucrative offer because they get money whether they work or not. Have we got any graphics to show people here? I think I know what you're going to show. Look at this. Look at there's the coast of Victoria, the east coast of Victoria. Look at the proportion. Wait until you see the next one. Look at the proportion of coastline that'll be blotted out by wind turbines. Look at this. Nuts. And these bastards, the solar and wind subsidies, the solar and wind energy prices are paid even when they're not generating. Now, I can understand subsidies. Well, there shouldn't be any subsidies for a start, but now subsidies go on forever. Okay, they're on all the time. But you should be paid only for the electricity you generate when you're generating it, not with solar and wind. They're paid regardless. Wind turbine not turning doesn't mean a thing. They will still get their revenue. Another uniparty, Liberal Labor issue? Yes, that's 3 out of 3 so far. Okay, let's get on to our latest and current. Okay, Aid Larson, new Queensland wind factory. I'm glad you said wind factory, not a farm. It's not a farm. Wind factory proposal in Southern Downs, Pikedale Wind Factory, Squadron Energy. Yep, destroying more land. Chris Bowen is the latest darling. He's the Minister for Climate Change and Energy. 2 conflicting issues. He's pushing climate change, which is complete bullshit. It's a fraud. It's a scam. And that will destroy our energy sector, from the one minister. This man is used to telling lies. But listen to his latest fling with your money, our money, taxpayer money. He's supporting backburning through carbon credit training. That should be carbon dioxide credit training. Look at some of this stuff. Here he is in the Northern Territory with another minister, Melandiri McCarthy. Cool burning, good stuff. Yep, good stuff. Getting the elders involved, great stuff, no problem. But what he's going to do, he's going to pay carbon credits for this. And listen to some of the things in the article. So I'm kidding you not. He talks about climate pollution. What the hell is climate pollution? He talks about cutting pollution from a fire. It's natural. Carbon dioxide is not pollution. I might have what time have we got here? 1:15 already. Maybe a future day. I have a colleague, he's dead now, but a colleague who wrote to the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the people who claim to be climate review experts. They're not, but anyway, they admitted that nowhere in their reports could they find a reference that says carbon dioxide is a pollutant. I'll go through those carbon dioxide properties. Let's have a look at this. And by the way, Julia Gillard's administration in this country concocted the term carbon pollution, I believe, and then Barack Obama on his visit here picked it up. Let's just see if any of this. Andrew Howard says, all for our country who contributes 1.4% of the world's CO2 levels. Exactly. Let's have a look at some of these properties. Carbon dioxide is not carbon pollution. Carbon dioxide is non-toxic. It's highly beneficial. It's essential for plants. It's plant food. We put it in our fizzy drinks and drink it, and we give it to our kids. It's in our beer. It's in our champagne. On the basis of non-toxicity, then, it's not a pollution. CO2, carbon dioxide, is colourless, odourless and tasteless. It doesn't discolour the air. It's not pollution. Carbon dioxide stays in the air only 5 to 7 years, possibly less than 12 months. They don't really know, but it looks like it's more likely just 12 months to 2 years. Before nature cycles it back into plants, animals and oceans. It stays in the air only a short time before nature cycles it back out of the air naturally. Look at this photo shoot. On that basis, it's not pollution. It's entwined with nature. Oceans contain, listen to this one. These are figures from the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Oceans contain in dissolved form 50 times the carbon dioxide contained in Earth's entire atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is released from and absorbed into oceans depending on the temperature of the oceans. Thus, nature overwhelmingly produces most of Earth's carbon dioxide, and ocean temperature determines its concentration in air. Humans cannot affect the level of carbon dioxide in the air. And I've shown you two experiments, one with after the global financial crisis in 2009, the other one in 2020 due to the COVID restrictions and lockdowns, where we drastically cut human production of carbon dioxide in the recession, and there was no impact at all on the trend in the atmosphere. Humans cannot affect the level of carbon dioxide in the air. On that basis, it's not pollution. Listen to this one. Bowen has no energy qualifications. I don't think he's got a brain. I'd go further than you. Blackout bozo Bowen needs to bugger off. Well said, Monica. The variation alone in nature's carbon dioxide production is estimated, they can't do any better than that because they don't really know, to be 4 times the total human production. So the total production of carbon dioxide by humans is 1/4, less than 1/4, the variation in nature's production of carbon dioxide. Human production of carbon dioxide cannot affect nature's balance. Not at all. Carbon dioxide is essential for all life on the planet. It's not a pollutant. Consider carbon dioxide against the characteristics of various definitions of pollution. It's not noxious and does not impair the quality of air, water, or soil. It's essential for upgrading the quality of air, water, and soil. It does not degrade the environment, nor impair its usefulness, nor render it offensive. It's essential for all life on Earth. Is that a pollutant? It doesn't make land, water, or air dirty or unsafe to use. It does not cause disease. It doesn't harm the ecosystem. It's essential for ecosystems. It doesn't harm plants and animals. It's essential for plants and animals. It doesn't cause discomfort, instability, or disorder like a typical pollutant. It's natural, and as a byproduct of industry, is beneficial to life. It doesn't accumulate. It doesn't upset nature's balance. It remains in the air for only a short period and is naturally recycled back into the carbon stores and plants and animals. It doesn't contaminate, apart from nature's production by volcanoes, and then only locally and under rare natural conditions, when in concentrations and volumes far higher than anything humans can produce, and then it's quickly taken care of by nature. It's not a foreign substance. It does not create light, heat, noise, or radioactivity, nor does it distort our senses. It's not a bloody pollutant. So the conclusion, I've written this document about 11 years ago. Carbon dioxide is not a pollutant of any kind. Cannot do what it's claimed to be doing by the government and the Greens. It doesn't produce heat. It doesn't store heat. It is impossible for humans to control carbon dioxide levels in the air. To attempt to control carbon dioxide levels in the air is futile. That's the facts. Senator, the focus on carbon dioxide is an attack on humanity. Exactly, Lance. That's exactly what it is. We all exhale carbon dioxide. Hey, and what you're saying makes absolute sense. I'll give you a story in a minute. Carbon dioxide taxes are a reverse tax on oxygen. Not only that, mate, you're correct, but Tony Blair, when he was Prime Minister of Britain, had some Australian consultants working for the government, the British government at the time when he was Prime Minister. And they were asked, before they returned to Australia, what are the chances of developing a system to be able to give individuals a carbon dioxide limit? So I'll be right, I'm a little fella. I won't produce much carbon dioxide. But the big people, look out, they're coming after you. You could say that's size discrimination. Carbon dioxide credit schemes mean you pay more for goods and services. Every person in the chain just passes on the carbon dioxide credit to the customer, and the person who's stuck with the bill is the end user, the last customer. Things like food and groceries. Carbon dioxide tax, an emissions trading scheme. The first person to make it policy in this country, first person in any major party to make it policy in this country, have a guess. John Howard, Liberal National Coalition from 1996 to 2007. He was the first one. Doug Oldfield. Got to wonder how many politicians, activists went to school. This is basic science. You're absolutely right. It's crazy. And this is a Liberal Labor Uni-Party tally. That's 4 out of 4. I think, I hope I'm counting correctly. 4 out of 4. And yet we see Bozo Chris Bowen, Blackout Bowen, whatever you want to call him, making a big fuss out of coal burning, which I'm pleased to see, because some years ago the Labor Party and the Greens banned burning for preventing growth and lots of fuel in forests. Yet elsewhere there's still not enough backburning being done because of green tape. Rural Fire Service falls short of target for hazard reduction out of bushfire season. This is yet another Liberal Labor Party, Uni-Party tally. So that's 5 out of 5 so far. Not one of them is a Labor issue, not one of them is a Liberal issue. They're both Liberal Labor. Let's go to another, and this one I can tell you up front. This is causing quite a fuss, and this is another Liberal Labor Uni-Party. Age checks on search engines. So the under-16 internet ban is now going to be on not just on YouTube, but it's going to be on search engines like Google. I'll read from my notes. Following Julie Inman Grant, National Press Club address, she's the e-safety commissioner, or as some people call her, I call her, the e-safety commissar. This is a communist, like a communist totalitarian dictatorship. The ABC ran an article after her discussion. Name Emerson, you hate E. Karen. The ABC ran an article on Friday, 11th of January, titled, "Australia is quietly introducing age checks for search engines like Google." Quietly introducing. The detail, though, is very concerning. Not only would biometric age verification be mandatory, which means that you have to show that you are not under 16. That's enormously disturbing, anti-democratic, and it's highly contentious. Again, it's like totalitarian dictatorship. The results of the search are to be automatically filtered, allowing unknown algorithms to obstruct and manipulate search results. So they can now censor what even Google shows you. Google itself is censoring. Now the government wants to censor, the e-safety commissar wants to censor its own search results. So the e-safety commissar, it's sold under the idea that adult content will be removed, something that is already available under the safe search options within Google. Now it includes harmful content. It doesn't say what it means. What does it mean? It could mean anything. They simply state a range of other content. A range of other content. Now, that's pretty broad. This doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, for good reason. It's a major violation of privacy and rights, freedom, human rights, freedoms. As the Digital Rights Watch chairman said, quote, "It's not clear that there is a social license for such important and nuanced changes. We would argue that the public deserves more of a say in how to balance these important human rights issues." Too damn right. Here are some of the listed ways to check ID. Photo ID, face scanning age estimation, credit card, digital ID, vouching by parent, using AI to guess. AI to guess. We talked about AI praising past dictators. Yeah, AI is going to guess. Third-party age checking. And by the way, it's an important note here in my notes. You cannot simply opt out of things like Google because many services are linked to a person's Google account required for work. Australians are essentially trapped. Misinformation and the disinformation, while we're on the topic of being trapped, the misinformation and disinformation bill which Scott Morrison introduced, which Labor then introduced and put to a vote and got defeated, in which One Nation warned the Australian people about when Scott Morrison introduced it. We were the first and only ones to discuss it. That was before when it was just a talking point for the coalition. We organised rallies, we organised conferences, we organised protests against this misinformation and disinformation bill. And thanks to the people of Australia, Labor collapsed under the pressure and it was defeated. You put so much pressure on the Liberals and the Greens that the Liberals opposed their own bill. But it's now rumoured to be coming back. The misinformation and disinformation bill is rumoured to be coming back. It's a censorship bill, that's all it is. But look at the controls they're wanting to put on, the Labor Party is wanting to put on Google. This is both Liberal and Labor. It has been for many, many years. So this is yet another Liberal Labor Party uni-party tactic. Gerald Pym, if they really cared, they would let parents raise their children. And boy, is that accurate. So true. And force KYC to view adult content like YouTube already has. KYC. Okay, here we go. Here's an example of self-centered government. Government actually censoring itself. They have a survey of income and housing results that's released, I think it's every year, it might be every 2 years. I'm pretty sure it's every year. It will not be released this year. So the latest one we've got is 2023-24. The latest one will not be released. So let me get to the media release. Statistics. The Australian Bureau of Statistics will not release statistics from the 2023-24 survey of income and housing due to data collection issues. Wow. Despite work to address these issues, the data did not meet the ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, high standards for official statistics and will not be released. I think the statistics will be showing a pretty dismal policy failure on Labor's part for housing due to the immigration numbers. This decision goes on, says the Australian Bureau of Statistics. The decision means that the following products will not be released in 2025. Income and wealth Australia. No data on income and wealth. How do you run the country? Housing occupancy and costs Australia. How do you plan for housing? Deputy Australian statistician Dr. Philip Gould said, quote, as the ABS, Australian Bureau of Statistics, modernises, we're developing new ways to collect information to improve response rates and make it easier for people to complete our surveys. This is partly because data collecting from households has become more difficult and costly in recent years. This is being experienced by statistical offices around the world. Oh, really? While we were compiling the statistics for survey of income and housing for 2023-2024, we found serious shortcomings in the questionnaire design. Why the hell did they put that out? Why didn't they design it properly in the first place? Questionnaire design and data collection processes that we could not overcome despite our best efforts. Oh, their best efforts. Sounds like it's in the design process. Producing reliable statistics is our top priority, and we will only release data we can stand by. And you will only release data, I wonder, that the government can stand by. The most recent survey of income and housing was in the field in the 2023-24 financial year. It collected detailed data on income, housing costs, like mortgages and rents, basic stuff, assets and liabilities, such as property, motor vehicles, investments and credit cards, from 30,000 households across Australia. We acknowledge that this decision will impact those who rely on a survey of income and housing statistics, and we're working closely with key users to understand how we can best support their data needs. What do you have to do? This is just amazing. ABS has been dragged down by the Uni Party, Liberal and Labor. There are so many public service agencies now that work to prop up the government. And when the Liberal Party moves out, they just slide straight in and prop up the Labor Party. They don't miss a beat. I wonder if that's the reason why a couple of years ago, these figures will still be proportional. The Prime Minister Morrison was on $535,000 a year salary. The lowest paid department head in Canberra was on $650,000, more than the Prime Minister. And some of them are paid more than $1 million per year. This survey of income and housing, is that to hide the truth? Is the government self-censoring? The decline, as I said, is yet another Uni-Party add to the Uni-Party tally, because they've both been guilty of destroying the Australian Bureau of Statistics' impartiality. COVID raises many, many serious questions about the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Now we've got a net zero bill coming, we hear. Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce is going to introduce a net zero bill to, quote, see how the coalition votes. Way to find out how the coalition truly feels about net zero. Is that clear? National Party is still committed, that's Barnaby Joyce's party, is still committed to, let me just get the picture back. The National Party is still committed to net zero. So how's Barnaby's bill going to go? Oh my goodness. Liberals committed to net zero, which comes from the UN World Economic Forum Alliance. Greens committed to net zero. Labor Party committed to net zero. Nationals committed to net zero. This is insane. Peter Black says we are net zero already. I think you're correct, but we may actually be over the mark already, because they don't count the oceans around Australia, and we've got phenomenal oceans that put us in the credit, no doubt. But really, Peter, who cares about net zero? Carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. Carbon dioxide is not affecting the climate. Carbon dioxide is just harmless. It's essential for all life on the planet. So the net zero, the Nationals are still committed to net zero. Who knows what will happen? Okay, last Sunday I went to a protest by the Women Up group at Redcliffe Plaza or Square at the end of Queen Street. I want to compliment the police for doing their job. They had one, what do they call themselves, trans these days, protester, and he tried to disrupt the rally, and they moved him on very instantly. And that's not been the case until recently, until this is the first time. The ladies were very surprised. The ladies are actually fearful of their safety because they've been subjected to violence, physical, in Brisbane, physical violence, and emotional violence and threats at almost every protest they've had. They're protesting for something that's really, really basic, women's rights. They want safe rooms, bathrooms, toilets, free of trans men who are really men, just men with dresses on and lipstick. They want to be free to play sport without men pretending to be women in their sports. They want to be free and safe and secure from men in jails pretending to be women. They want safe spaces for women. Now, normally I don't like the concept of safe spaces, but this is absolutely essential. Women need to be protected, especially mothers and pregnant women need protection. But all women. Oh, and I was labelled a TERF, T-E-R-F. TERF is, I have to write this down, trans, exclusionary, radical feminists. These women that I saw on Sunday and had the pleasure of supporting publicly are not radicals. They're actually normal human beings wanting to protect their children and protect themselves and protect all women, including mothers and pregnant mothers. So it's trans, exclusionary, radical feminists. So you're now... See what they've done? You assess each word. Trans, exclusionary, they're against trans. They're not against trans. They're saying if you want to be trans, there's no such thing as a trans, but if you want to be a trans, go ahead. They're just saying stay out of our space. They're called radicals and they're called feminists, extreme radical feminists. By the way, it is great to see that there are calls in Australia now, across Australia, for protection of children after rapes and sexual abuse. And how can you do that? How can you do that? Of children, infants, coming out in the last couple of weeks. Oh, there was some good news. There was some good news. I was standing around listening to people at the end, and they're coming up, and we're having chats. And there's a gentleman just waiting very patiently for the conversation I was in to finish. And he then said, thank you very much for, I won't mention his name, he gave me his name, but he said, thank you very much for standing up during COVID mismanagement. And he was a police officer. And I'll mention it, he was from the Australian Federal Police. And he just took leave. And when his leave ended, he was offered unpaid leave. So that's considerate of the Australian Federal Police. So thank you. And then then they called him sometime later and said, would you like a couple of shifts out at the airport? And then he's back. He's back in the AFP, which is wonderful. The other thing is that I understand that the mandates in the Queensland Public Service have ended. They've been officially ended. The Premier, the state government, has ended them. And if there's anyone who's a public servant and not getting their job back, let me know, please. And I understand that they've been reinstated with pay. Now, the COVID mandates, the COVID the recognition of trans people as women is another Liberal Labor Party, Uni Party deal. Fire ants. We now have fire ants, despite what we're told is one of the world's best biosecurity measures surrounding southeast Queensland. We now have fire ants in Mackay and Perth. We now have them in the Darling Downs at Oakey. We now have them in northern New South Wales. This has been a complete failure, and it's because they've been pushed by a top-down control and aggression approach. Instead of fighting the people and forcing the people to do illegal or unlawful things. We need to use the people, because the people, once they take responsibility, they'll get rid of fire ants. But at the moment, they're resisting the indiscriminate poisoning with toxic chemicals of their properties and affecting their own health, and they're killing their animals. We need to use the people. I've always found that very effective, is to involve people and let them share their ideas and then take responsibility for doing something. Governments in Australia, though, don't do that. They want to control. Fire ants, Liberal Labor, yet again, Uniparty. What's the time? 2:36. So let me just check what we've got left to go. I might come back to those topics if I've got time. Social media responses in the last week. Fauci and AIDS. Anthony Fauci and AIDS. 80s and 90s, people died from the AIDS treatment, not from the AIDS virus. That's absolutely correct. And there were thousands of people who supported that post. Women Up protests got lots of support as well. Topher Field's very succinct comment on net zero and the energy sector. All the efficiencies we've been told will be essential for keeping our prices low, and our prices have gone up trebled. Very good post, Topher. Topher's very good. If you can read that. The release, the video of me talking about that Senate estimates, asking questions about the release of criminals into society was very well supported. The Australian Taxation Office, a story done by a current affair on Channel 9 into the ATO. The ATO is a law unto itself. It is a prosecutor, it is investigator, prosecutor, judge and jury. And that's too much power for any one organisation. So that was very well supported. I mean, the ATO is crippling some small businesses indiscriminately with no accountability. The anger and dissent against the Liberal Labor solar and wind deceit and tyranny was also another post that was very well received. A post calling on people, on the government to stop mass immigration, very well received. The short video, it's about a minute and a bit, I think, of a man speaking very well about parents raising children, not government. And he makes a very fine comment that says the problem with children today, the behaviour in our society, is because governments have raised children, because parents have not, so many parents have not taken responsibility for the raising their children. So when parents don't raise children, the government does. And that's part of the problem of our society. The USA health agencies, a video with RFK documenting very, very clearly how big pharma conflicts of interest are rife in the Food and Drug Administration, the Centre for Disease Control, the National Institute of Health, the Health and Human Services Department, and other agencies in America. Big pharma controls everything over there in the health sector. And again, well, okay. Now, I'm going to be returning to the COVID topic once Parliament resumes. I'll be returning to it not in the first 3 days, but in the second week, which will be starting Monday the 28th. Scientific data is absolutely vital there. So I was going to talk about science, but we'll leave that for another day. I have got some good news. Got a letter back from David Crisafulli, the Premier of Queensland. And he points out that on the COVAX study, remember that's the study of more than 10,600 specimens, bodily fluid specimens of people who have had the COVID injections and those who have not had the COVID injections. It's, we believe, the best and biggest study of its type in the world. And because the specimens are still here, they will be used for a longitudinal study, which means time series. So this will be the best study in the world. And the COVAX wants to destroy them. Now, I've discussed that some time ago. So we've been campaigning. It's a state issue, but we've been campaigning and putting pressure on the Queensland government, the Health Minister, the Attorney General, and the Premier to intervene and stop this. So I've got something back, a letter back. Your concerns regarding the biospecimens collected as part of the COVAX SET program are acknowledged. Queensland Health has confirmed that Metro North Hospital, which is part of Queensland Health, and Health Service will continue to store the COVAX set project specimens and data in accordance with the relevant requirements. Now that's a little bit bothering there. Relevant requirements, what does he mean? We think that means 7 years. So 7 years from 2021 is 2028. So maybe they'll try to destroy it after that. This is a breach of faith with all the people who took part, more than 10,600 Queenslanders who took part in this study. It's a breach of faith to millions of people around the world who are suffering from COVID injection shots. If the COVAX study that they've analysed so far shows that the vaccines are safe, why not release them? Yes, Lonesome Drifter. How about questioning why they tried to shut down the research? Exactly. If the COVID injections are not safe, what would they want to do? Why wouldn't they release them? Because they don't want to admit that. Liberal and Labor were both part of this COVID scam, this COVID control measure, this COVID fraud, this COVID homicides. So it's another Liberal Labor Party Liberal Labor uni-party deal. And I've written back to the Premier and the Health Minister, Tim Nicholls, asking what they mean by the relevant requirements. We haven't got a response back yet, but we will continue with them. I'd like to finish on a positive. I'm looking forward very much. I'm really impressed with the two new senators for One Nation. That's Tyrone Whitten from Western Australia and, Senator-elect Warwick Stacey from New South Wales. Both experienced, both practical people, both worldly people. They know which way's up. So I'm looking forward to starting working with them in the Senate on Tuesday onwards. I think you'll see some really fine work from both these men. And I'm going to finish with this thought. Many years ago, I was in Washington, D.C., travelling around America. I'd worked there for 18 months. And I travelled through all 50 states. And I was in Washington, D.C. Around the time the first space shuttle launch was to be launched at Cape Canaveral or Cape Kennedy, whatever it's called these days. Anyway, I missed out on the launch because it was delayed due to cold weather, but so I had to move on to Washington. I wanted to see the cherry blossoms. While I was in the Smithsonian, I saw a poster. It's on my office wall. I get goosebumps when I think about this. President John F. Kennedy, the youngest president, I think, at the time, commissioned a study in 1960 or 61, whatever it was, and he basically said to NASA, what are the chances of getting a man on the moon and bringing him back safely and intact by the end of the decade, by 1969? And NASA came back with these words. Didn't say yes, didn't say no. It said, we have a sporting chance. There it is. We have a sporting chance. And that was the decision to go to the moon. So John F. Kennedy committed the country to go to the moon based on that decision. He wanted to have a go. He had vision because he knew that it would unleash remarkable new technological discoveries. That's exactly what happened. I know that electronic fuel injection in cars, which has dramatically improved performance, safety, efficiency, and reduced pollution from cars, came out of the electronic ignition, came out of the space program. It was a remarkable program. And for those who think that the moon landing was fake, we now know that the Indians have put an orbital craft around the moon, and they've taken photos of and shown that the landing craft are still there. So we know that they got them up there. Okay, but anyway, the real message, apart from that little joke, is to recognise that there were no facts that were clear, yes or no, we could put a man on the moon, but we have a sporting chance, and that committed the United States to that, and as a result of that, humanity has benefited enormously. So many ways, daily life, everything. So that's remarkable, and that's what we need in this country. We need more vision, we need more daring, we need more commitment to excitement and adventure and human progress. Instead, what we're doing is we're crippling our energy sector, which is reversing human progress. We need to get back to human progress, because that's what humans are all about. So with that, I'll turn over to questions. What time is it? Well, I finished on time. Peter Black says, just don't send any more baby formula to the Chinese via foreign-owned dairies. The port is not as important, in my opinion. We can monitor that. Well, we don't want the Chinese baby formula coming here, do we? Gloria Gale says, I missed the start of your podcast today. Wonder if you spoke about government. Yep, spot on. Signing the WHO pandemic treaty tomorrow. No, I didn't speak about that. I've spoken about that many times in the past. I've got a member of staff in our team who's I'm blessed with having, because he knows the UN World Health Organization Constitution inside out. He has predicted all along what's going to be happening with the World Health Organization. He's the one who first alerted us to this back in April 2022, before it became an item in Australia. And I made the first videos, to my knowledge, in Australia in April of 2022, and we released them. Some of those videos, as I've said repeatedly, went around the world. They increased people's knowledge about what the World Health Organization was up to. The previous regulations were enacted in 2007, were formulated in 2007, because the UN World Health Organization, Gloria, cannot enact a damn thing in Australia. I'll come to that in a minute. What happened in 2022, when we released that video, at the same time, the Africans were appalled with the World Health Organization's grab for more power and control over countries. The pandemic treaty, as it was originally defined in 2022, and by the way, it came as a request from the United States government. The Democrats in power, they made a request. They wanted the UN, World Health Organization, to have all this additional power. They wanted it because the pharmaceutical companies are mostly American, some German, some British, and they wanted to control increase the use of pharmaceuticals made in America. They wanted to make them compulsory. The Africans said, go to hell, because we don't not want you fellas who've committed atrocities in our country, killing thousands of people, Africans, on so-called trials of medical drugs. And they said no. And the person in my office who's in charge of this said that that means it's dead for now, because it has to be a consensus decision, not a majority decision. So clearly many other countries said go to hell as well, and the World Health Organization went back to the drawing boards, and they greatly revised down their international health regulation amendments, greatly revised them down, so there's hardly any difference with the original ones from 2007. They pulled back the pandemic treaty. Now what they've got is they've got some other terminology for it, but it's so watered down, it's nothing. It's nothing. So why do we oppose it? We oppose it for a very simple reason. We don't want the Labor Party and the Liberal Party accepting it here. The World Health Organization, even though it's watered down, we don't want the government to accept it, because we don't want that to be an excuse for enacting things that the World Health Organization says to do. Because the World Health Organization, even if it passed its own measures, then it cannot force the government in Australia to adopt the measures unless the Australian government enacts the legislation to say that it can. So that's why we don't want it. We don't want the Labor and Liberal Party to fall back on the tired old mantra, the UN World Health Organization is telling us to do this. The UN World Health Organization screwed up badly in COVID. It enabled COVID to get out of China. It enabled COVID to escape around the world before they even started telling the truth. So that was a major problem. The UN World Health Organization, biggest funder after America, is Bill Gates. Bill Gates' foundations. And they're a front for vaccine injection makers. So we don't want them here in this country. But the changes, if the government votes tomorrow, are not significant. They're nothing to be worried about. What we don't like is the government then enacting them in this country, because even though they're not a threat anymore, they've been so watered down, thanks to the Africans, that they'll still be used as an excuse for the government to introduce its own nonsense. So I didn't talk about it, but there's the talk about it. Anna Byrne says, wait for this, one nation favours yet more immigration. Why has their platform changed? What? We don't favour immigration. Australia was built on immigrants. I'm half immigrant. Many people in this country are immigrants. We're opposed to immigration now. We've got to stop immigration because it's catastrophically massive. It's destroying our country. It's destroying infrastructure. It's causing the housing crisis. It is the number one driver by far of the housing crisis, the homelessness crisis. It's also destroying our culture. Albanese letting in record numbers of people and telling lies, saying that he will decrease it the following year, and he increases it. The number of students coming in. We are not in support of immigration right now, not at all. We are totally opposed to it. We have led the way on this, Anna, for the last several years. We have led the way. We're the only ones talking about it before the election, until it became an election issue, and then Labor and Liberal came up to the party and said, we'll cut immigration too. Well, that's bullshit. They didn't. So we're not supporting immigration. Mr. Worthless Eater, I've been talking to Yuval Harari. Why don't they let Australian citizens decide if the data collected meets their standards? Also known as, why aren't they transparent? The key question there, Worthless Eater, is why aren't they transparent? That's the key question. We'll be following that in Parliament. I didn't mention that earlier. We'll be chasing that up in Parliament and holding them accountable. But I agree that the data should be released if it's accurate. But if it's not accurate, then it should be considered for release with caveats around it, or not released because it could be misleading, could be dangerous. So I can understand if it is substandard, but they should still. The question is, why did they do it in a substandard way after many years of experience in this field? I don't trust the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Reed Drew, will get home today, opened a letter telling me my power and gas are going up again, so that's an extra $100 a year. Climate con. Exactly, mate. I can't say it any better. It's all bullshit. Gerald Pym, would like to not have my country invaded anymore. You're talking about immigration, I guess, Gerald. That's what we've been saying. Stop the invasion now. And while we're at it, we've been calling from the start of our immigration policy to deport 75,000 people who are here illegally. We in Australia should make the decision who comes here. When they come here, they must fit in with our, in my opinion and Pauline's opinion, they must fit in with our values, our culture, and abide by our laws. That is non-negotiable. And anybody who breaks laws or is here illegally, send them home. Deport them immediately. Mark Russell says, what's your opinion about Albo in China? Is he a toothless tiger? He's definitely a toothless tiger, but he's a dangerous tiger. He's a dangerous cat. He's a dangerous cat. He's a communist in his ideology, and that's always a problem, because communists are about control. They're not about the people, they're about control. He's very, very clever. He's very, very slick. He has a good turn of the mouth, but his policies are hideous, and we haven't seen the worst of it yet. Mark Hitchens, will you be questioning the cost of the junket trip to China? Yes, in Senate estimates we will be. And we'll also be questioning the purpose of the trip, and what he achieved, and how much damage he did. Portia Smith, it makes me so angry. This government is a total rort. We have been sold out. We are so rich in resources. We should not be paying tax at all. You know, you make a good point there. You make several good points, actually. We are so rich in resources. Per person, we have more resources than anyone else in the world. And we're giving them to foreign multinationals to extract and sell. We get hardly anything for our gas. We're the third biggest gas exporters in the world, close to the biggest, but we're the third biggest now. And we the Japanese levy $3 billion a year on import tax on our gas. We get bugger all. Certainly nothing like $3 billion, nothing like $1 billion. We should not be, if we manage our resources properly, we could possibly pay no tax at all. But regardless, tax is the cost of government. There are two things we need to do. Cut the size of government, which was our policy. Shrink the government to fit the Constitution. That would save $90 billion plus per year, every year, year in, year out. And then change the tax system so that foreign multinationals pay their fair share and so that we have a fair tax system. The most destructive system in our country is the taxation system. Not only, and I discussed it earlier, I don't know if you were with us, Portia, but I discussed it earlier that the Australian Taxation Office is investigator, prosecutor, judge, jury, and they are killing small businesses by unfairly and dishonestly attacking some small businesses. You should be angry. Get hold of your local MP, get hold of your state senators. Danelle Cole. Why can't we just sack the bastards? When a CEO isn't doing his job properly, he gets a sack. So why can't we sack them now before he ruins our country anymore? Well, we had an election in just 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, and that was the ideal opportunity to sack them. And it sacked the Uni Party at the same time, sacked Dutton at the same time. We've got to get the smaller parties, the independents, up. And here's the good news. 40 years ago, the proportion of people who voted Liberal or Labor in their number one priority, number one preference, was 95%. It's now down to 66%, 65%, and falling. One Nation increased its vote. So that's really encouraging. Here's the deal. Labor has been voted into power again by the people of Australia. They had the opportunity to sack him and they didn't. I mean, the alternative, Peter Dutton and the Liberals, was not much better. Their policies are almost identical, but here's the thing. The Labor Party got in with just under 35% of the vote. If you then take that as a percentage of the people who are eligible to vote, then it was about 29%, less than 30%. The Liberal Party got about 33% of the vote, and if you take into consideration that as a percentage of the people who are eligible to vote, then it was about 26%, just over a quarter. So the Uni Party is falling out of favour, the minor parties are rising. Only two parties increased their number of parliamentarians in this last election 2 months ago. That's the Labor Party, unfortunately, and One Nation. We doubled our number of senators. Oh, yes, Theresa Mills. I meant to put up something on social media about this. Theresa Mills says something's really important to understand. Not sure if you're aware, she says, of footage from last Monday, just a few days ago. Very large group of men outside St. Patrick's singing and chanting. It was very disconcerting and not reported on the mainstream media. A friend of mine in Melbourne told me about that, and sure enough, they sent a clip. They looked to me like members of the Islamic religion, Islamic ideology, encircling St. Patrick's Cathedral, singing and chanting, and that did not get reported on mainstream media at all. I am very worried about it, and you should be disconcerted. Disconcerted not only with it happening, they were on a march and they stopped and encircled the St. Patrick's Cathedral, but very disconcerted that it wasn't reported. Definitely, the media is supposed to be part of the tribe, the organisations holding people accountable, holding the politicians accountable. They're not. They're supporting the politicians. They're not doing their job. Stop buying them. Stop buying it. And we'll continue our policy of trying to shut down the ABC or sell it off, except for the rural radio stations, which do a great job during natural disasters and providing services to agriculture. James Ryan asks, what do you think there should be on our what do you think should there be our next steps of fixing things in Australia, your opinion? Number one issue is governance in this country. The number one issue, and the ceding of our sovereignty, that's part of the governance. The governance under Liberal and Labor has been shoddy for 7 decades, and I mean 7 decades. They've white-handed our country. It accelerated in 1975 with Gough Whitlam from the Labor Party as Prime Minister signing the Lima Declaration, which removed our manufacturing sector. It was ratified the following year in 1976 by his so-called arch enemy. There you go. So Tony Peffer, I didn't know that you'd said that, but that's great. You're on the ball. It was ratified by the Liberals the next year. They have both been guilty of this. UN Agenda 21 was signed by Keating's government. The man who did the most damage in implementing it was John Howard from the Liberal Party. Keating was from the Labor Party. They've been destroying a country. The number one thing that's a problem in this government and in governance in this country, Liberal and Labor, is the contradiction of data, the abuse of data, the destruction of data, the blind not looking at data, and sometimes just blatantly contradicting the data. They rely instead on vested interests, supporting vested interests, appeasing their donors, using emotion, headlines from the media. This whole climate scam was a beat-up that was orchestrated by those people, both sides of Parliament. And so what we've got is we need to get back to where you run a business, which is based on data. Get the data, get the science, get the proper scientific data. So that's the first thing. But the second thing that needs to happen before governments can be brought to account is the Australian people need to wake the hell up and hold these bastards accountable. When I say wake up, I mean make sure everyone votes. Make sure everyone thinks about the policies, the character of the candidates, and the values of the candidates. Do a thorough job of assessing them, because their job, our job as your representative, is to listen to you and then put in place policies to support what you want, what you need. That's not happening in this country. Instead, we've got foreign bastards coming into this country through the airwaves and telling our leaders what to do. And it's hurting Australia. 90% of Australia's large companies are foreign-owned, and since 1953 have paid little or no company tax. They're not my words. They're words from Jim Killaley, former Deputy Commissioner of Taxation. Oh, Streak Free 750 says, what's your policy to increase tax revenue from multinationals operating in Australia? First step, immediately, was one we released in the election run-up, which has been a long-standing policy from One Nation, and that is to tax the gas exporters. Tax them. That'll bring in $13.5 billion worth of cash every year. That's the start. The second is to avoid transfer pricing rorts, to avoid the non-payment of tax rorts. What we want to do is assess foreign companies on their number, the quantity of production, so they cannot avoid, through rigging the books, a taxation. We must get them to pay tax. And the third thing on my agenda is to develop long-term comprehensive tax reform so that we have a fair, honest, efficient system that can be complied with minimal effort and is fair for everyone. That's comprehensive tax reform. And by the way, we've already been the only parties to have moved to end bracket creep as a way of a stealth tax. So what we want to do is index them. We've moved a motion twice to amend Labor Party bills, and both times we've been knocked back. Labor Party said, we love the idea because they know the people will support it, but then they voted against it. Liberal Party said, we love the idea of indexing brackets, taxation brackets, but they voted against it. They pretend to be on your side, but they're not. So that's the immediate thing we would do, bring in indexation of tax brackets. I think I'm over time. One more question. Janelle Cole says, we need to start deporting these people that are causing trouble. Yes, as I said, only let into this country and keep in this country people who comply with the laws, people who can comply with our values, adhere to our values, and people who fit into our culture. We only have to deport a few to get the message across. You're correct, Janelle, but first of all, we need to stop them coming into the country. You don't bring 2,000 people from Gaza, surrounded by terrorists, and high likelihood of them being terrorists into our country with 1 hour vetting. You don't do that. So stop them coming here in the first place. But as I said earlier in this show, we need to deport 75,000 people who are here illegally. Look, I'll just say thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for participating. I love your questions. I love Q&A. With some of the other issues that we didn't get to today, we'll get to in future weeks. Parliament starts next week. I want to finish on a positive. Remember what's on my wall here? John F. Kennedy said, we have a sporting chance on whether or not we'll get to the moon and back by the end of the decade, 69. He did it. His decision did it. So we have a sporting chance. We need to have a go. That's a good old Aussie saying, have a go. Have a good weekend. See you in the next live stream.